Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, in Fiji Island, in Mexico, Spain, in Africa, to the United Kingdom, and to our brethren in Australia, and to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. Greetings, and may the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. This is our episode number 3, the subject, the day of slaughter. I would like to begin our study on reading the statement here, saying, our Savior has told us that not one jot or tittle of the law shall fail of being fulfilled, and the law can only be fulfilled in prophecy by the accomplishment of that of which the law was typical. I would like to read again. It says, our Savior has told us that not one jot or tittle of the law shall fail of being fulfilled, and the law can only be fulfilled in prophecy by the accomplishment of that of which the law was typical. Here's another statement. It says here, this observance, that is the observance of the Passover, this observance seems to typify the two advents of Christ. The lamb typified Christ, the lamb slain from the foundation of the world. As the lamb was eaten whole, so not a bone of Christ was broken. He was the paschal lamb. That which had reference to his first advent was then fulfilled. But there was the passing over the children of Israel, who on their doors the sprinkling of the blood of the lamb, and the slaying of the Egyptians, and the departure of the children of Israel from Egypt, which can only be fulfilled in Christ's second advent, when the Israel of God will leave the Egypt of this world, and the destroying angel will pass over those who are sprinkled with the blood of Christ, and will slay not only the firstborn, but all of the wicked, at the fulfillment of the Passover in the kingdom of God. So, we will focus our attention to that predicted event, the antitypical Passover. In 2TG, number 41. It is entitled Current Events, the Palestine Situation, and How Close the Separation. I had been asked to give a study on current events, on the Palestine situation, and on the separation caused by the slaughter that is forecast in Ezekiel's vision. I wish that I could tell you all you want to know, but I cannot say how soon the separation, the purification of the church, Volume 5, page 80, will take place. God alone knows the time. All I know is that it cannot take place before we prepare the way, before our God-given work in connection with Ezekiel 9 is done. Then it will come to pass that the Lord will suddenly come to His temple, the church, and purify the sons of Levi, the ministry. Malachi 3 verse 1 to 3. But those who receive not the mark will fall under the slaughter weapons of the angels, as did the unfaithful firstborn in the night of the Passover in the land of Egypt. I am, however, certain that God will not keep us ignorant of the things we ought to know. If it becomes necessary for us to know ahead of time the day and hour of the purification of the church, the antitypical Passover, we will be told. Yes, we shall know at least as much in advance as Moses knew about the Passover in his day. He did not know much ahead the day and hour of the events that were then to take place, but he was instructed of his and of the people's duties and of what to expect from day to day. Neither did he know beforehand that they were to come up against the Red Sea, but as the cloud led them there, and as the Egyptians followed close behind, he was then told what to do. Moreover, at the time they crossed the sea, he did not know that they were to spend 40 years in the desert, nor that the grown-ups among them were to perish while on their journey to the promised land. Thus must it be today, because the secret things belongs unto the Lord our God. But those things which are revealed belongs unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. Deuteronomy 29, verse 29. God knows how to lead and how to save. I cannot therefore give you light beyond what inspiration makes known. I can only speak of the things that are revealed. The most exciting current event that we know of is the presidential election, which stands only 2 days in the future. As the nation sees it, this is now the biggest thing in the world. Even though many will not get what they want, for each one of the different parties has named its own nominee on the presidential ballot, but only one president is to be elected. 2TG 41, page 3 and page 4. In these 2 pages, it is entitled Current Events Concerning the Palestine Situation and concerning the separation that will take place during the Passover week. And such subject is attached the presidential election in the United States of America. First of all, brethren, I would like to read this statement in the Old Symbolic Code. 2 Symbolic Code, number 7 and 8 on page 10. 2 Symbolic Code, number 7 and 8, page 10. It says, hence, as there are no useless words in either of the writings, those who desire to know the truth must carefully mark every word. Otherwise, they will never comprehend the truth. And as a consequence, they will be driven by the winds as the waves of the sea. Until the winds cease blowing, probation closes, and they be left to sink down in their sins as do the waves in the sea. This state, for sure, can also be applied to the Shepherd's Rod publications. That there are no useless words in the Shepherd's Rod publications. And those who desire to know the truth, they will carefully mark every word, for inspiration never does anything careless or vain. Accordingly, tract number 15, page 78. From the aforementioned examples, we already see that the time has come for all faithful Bible students after saving truth, to realize that inspiration never does anything vain or careless. Its work is ever accurately constructed, always dependable, at face value, and explicit beyond improvement. Now, let us now analyze closely our reading in 2TG 41, pages 3 and 4. What does it mean by the statement in 2TG 41, page 4, saying, the most exciting current event that we know of is the presidential election, which stands only 2 days in the future? What does it mean by the statement, which stands only 2 days in the future? First, this reading material was written in November 6, 1948, according to 2TG number 41, page 3. November 6, 1948, or it was delivered. The message was given November 6, that is Sabbath, in 1948. Now, at a first glance, brothers and sisters, it seems that the thought on page 4, it seems that the presidential election in the United States of America in 1948 took place on November 8. That is the first thought that will come into our mind, even myself. I thought that the statement in 2TG 41, page 4, saying, the most exciting current event that we know of is the presidential election, which stands only 2 days in the future. And since this message was delivered by B.T. Hotep on November 6, 1948, brothers and sisters, the first Sabbath on November, it seems that the presidential election will take place on November 8. That is the first thought that came into my mind, seeing that it was delivered on November 6. Therefore, 2 days in the future, meaning 2 days from November 6. But historically, the presidential election of the United States of America in 1948
took place on November 2. And I think that is the Constitution of the United States of America, that the presidential election should be on the first Tuesday on November. And such presidential election in 1948 took place on November 2. Now the question, what is the true meaning of this statement? Saying the most exciting current event that we know of is the presidential election, which stands only 2 days in the future. Now I would like to read 1SR, page 128. It says, 1SR, page 128. If it is engraved on a tile, it cannot be erased. The thought is that the prophecy will surely come to pass, and after it once becomes history, one cannot erase the things portrayed. It is there to stay through all ages. 1SR, page 128. So once it becomes history, it is there to stay forever. It can no longer be erased. I would like to harmonize also the statement given by Alonzo Jones. It says, history is the only true commentary on the prophecies, and the only true exposition of the prophecies is to set down together the history in the prophecy. Because history as it really is, but the complementary of prophecy as it is written. Here's another statement. To know whether we have the true historical event for the fulfillment of a prophecy, if you find every word of the prophecy after the figures are understood is literally fulfilled, then you may know that your history is the true event. But if one word lacks a fulfillment, then you must look for another event or wait its future development, for God takes care that history and prophecy that agree, so that the true believing children of God may never be ashamed. So, that is the statement given by the voice of inspiration. Now, brothers and sisters, let's go back again to 2TG 41, pages 3 and page 4. You know, brethren, the prophet or God's prophet is divided into two classes. There is, or the prophet that had been raised by God to prophesy that specific event, to predict that specific event. But let us distinctly separate the prophet that had been raised by God at the time when that predicted event will be fulfilled. And for example, William Miller, God raised up William Miller prior to that predicted event, the cleansing of the sanctuary. But Sister White had been raised by God at the time when the predicted event is actually taking place. Although I do not know this statement, whether it is really come from the writings of B.T. Hawthorne. But the statement is real, and I would like to read to you. I know it is published by the Bayesian Ministry, but the very statement written here is precisely correct. Now, I would like to read. It says, "It is manifestly clear, therefore, from Enoch to the apostles, that whereas on the one hand the spirit of prophecy wrote out his invariable dual work, first prophesying of the event, then later fulfilling it, the devil did not, on the other hand, do much by comparison to prevent or to fight off the prophecies of the event, but spared no effort to defeat their fulfillment. Thus it is clearly seen that from the beginning there has been first a work of prophesying an event, then following a work fulfilling the event prophesied. And that whereas the opposition did not markedly manifest itself against the true prophecy work of proclaiming the predictions, it worked savagely in the effort to defeat their fulfillment, to prevent its predicted event from coming to pass." Now, and the example given is William Miller, Enoch, Sister White, and Noah. The year 1833 witnessed the spur prophecies, revealing through William Miller that according to Daniel 8 verse 14, the cleansing of the sanctuary was to begin in 1844. Although inspired to preach announced the cleansing of the sanctuary, the first day Advent movement was not informed of what the cleansing itself was. Thus it was that they thought it to be the end of the world. In this disappointing come to pass is seen in bold relief the precedent established from the beginning, the same procedure of the Spirit of truth that is to be observed in his first redemptive work as the Spirit of prophecy. When he announced through Enoch the end of the world in that day, although he used Enoch to proclaim the prediction, he did not use him to fulfill it. And though, as he affirms through his servant to his church today, through holy angels, God revealed to Enoch his purpose to destroy the world by a flood. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 85, paragraph 5. Still, he did not give Enoch to know all about the flood and the ark of safety, nor to know and to declare just when and how the flood was to come. That preternatural aspect of his end of the world warning he reserved to Noah's message, timing the end to the 120 years, then the deluge. So the thought, brothers and sisters, I would like to re-emphasize again. The manifestation of inspiration is divided into two divisions. The prophets who prophesied the predicted event, for example, all the prophets in the Old Testament, they predict the coming of the Messiah on his first advent. But there is only one prophet that God raised when the event is actually taking place. That is John the Baptist. He is the prophet that had been raised by God when that prophecy is fulfilling. Now let us go back to our main subject, 2TG 41, page 3 and 4, by which in reality, the particular object in view in this reading, 2TG 41, pages 3 and page 4, is the antitypical Passover. Ptihotep was the prophet that had been raised by God to predict that event, the antitypical Passover. But the absolute fact is that not only Ptihotep, beginning from William Miller, then all God-inspired sermons, all of them predict that event, the antitypical Passover. And how much more essential that our God will raise up a prophet at the time when that predicted event will be actually to take place. When that predicted event will at last be materialized. Now, before going back to this reading in 2TG 41, page 3 and 4, to repeat again, brothers and sisters, there must be an accurate meaning of the statement given in 2TG 41, page 4, saying the most exciting current event that we know of is the presidential election. Therefore, in this subject, there must be current events that take place in Palestine, which is closely connected to the presidential election of the United States of America. And not only that current events, which is closely connected to the presidential election of the United States of America, it is the foundation of this very important event, the antitypical Passover, by which the exact and the true meaning of that statement, which stands only 2 days in the future, brothers and sisters, must be pertaining to the statement in 2TG 41, page 3. Current events. What is the current events concerning the Palestine situation? By which that it will answer the question, how close the separation stands only 2 days in the future. Is that 2 days literal or is that 2 days prophetic? For sure, there must be a meaning of that statement in 2TG 41, page 4. But the first thought that came into my mind when I read that statement, 2 days in the future, the very first thought that entered into my mind is that from the time Ptihotep uttered the words, from that time you will count 2 days, then the presidential election of the United States of America take place. But when I carefully check the historical events in 1948, the presidential election of the United States of America took place on November 2, 1948, not November 8. Because if the thought is precisely correct, that from the time Ptihotep uttered the words 2 days in the future, and then he delivered that message in November 6, it seems that the presidential election of the United States of America will take place on November 8. But November 8, 1948 is Monday, and it is against the American Constitution, because their Constitution plainly declared that the presidential election of the United States of America will will take place on the first Tuesday on November. For example, 2020. So the presidential election of the United States of America this year must be on November 3. The first Tuesday on November. So when I look at the historical event, I need to completely drop that idea because it is not in accordance with the historical event. The historical event plainly declared that the presidential election in the United States of America took place in November 2, 1948. But this statement in 2TG 41 page 4 plays a vital role in this predicted event, that antitypical Passover, and the absolute answer to the question and how close the separation. First, brethren, when in 2000, I think, that was in 2016, the presidential election in 2016. Can we show that diagram, the two phenomenon? To repeat again, brothers and sisters, let us, do you have that history? Can you find that history, the presidential election in 1948? Let us look at first the historical event. Is it in Wikipedia or in November 1948, first 1948? When was you see, November 2, 1948. So that is the presidential election in the United States of America. Although in reality, I am not so familiar with the American Constitution. But let us look at 2020, this presidential election. When would be it will take place? November 3. You see, so this coming presidential election would be on November 3, 2020. Now, how about in 2016, that presidential election? I'm wondering why it took place on November 8. Because November 8, I think that is already the second Tuesday on November 2016. So that is already the second Tuesday, November 8. But in 1948, that is the first Tuesday. 1948, so that is the first Tuesday. And also in 2020, still that is the first Tuesday. So I would like to trace up all the presidential election of the United States of America. If it is only in 2016, by which the presidential election took place on the second Tuesday of November, because 1948, the first Tuesday, and 2020, this coming presidential election, also the first Tuesday on November, but the presidential election in 2016 took place on the second Tuesday, November 8. If that is the only year by which the presidential election of the United States of America took place on the second Tuesday on November, it is even more very significant because historically, in our own experience, when we discovered this message, that was, I think, November 5, 2016. That Sabbath in November in 2016. Yeah, November 5. And that is the first time that we focus or we fully believe that it is God who guided our understanding on that Sabbath on November 5, 2016. Then on November 6, when we trace back the historical event, we found out that the presidential election in the United States of America took place on November 2, 1948 and not November 8. But it seems very significant at that time that the statement here in 2TG 41 page 4 was actually applied on that very day, because at that time, November 6, it is 2 days in the future, November 8, the presidential election of the United States of America took place. We would like to show to you the two phenomenon. 1948, leap year. The presidential election in 2016, leap year. But before that presidential election in the United States of America in 2016, we have already a study that 45th president is prophetic. And that is even pointing to Daniel 11:45. That Daniel chapter 11 verse 45. Let me read to you here in 2SR 151. It says, 2SR 151. Therefore of him alone can it be said, it is a man. Thus whosoever shall stand at the head of that persecuting power, as described in this chapter, and represented by the beast is the one who shall bear the mystical number 666. The spirit of prophecy also states that the king of the north brought to view in Daniel 11 verse 45 and the two-horned beast of Revelation 13 is the same power, and that it shall bear this mystical number 666. We quote, this power is the last that traces down the true church of God. And as the true church is still trodden down and cast out by all Christendom, it follows that the last oppressive power has not come to his end, and Michael has not stood up. This last power that traces down the saints is brought to view in Revelation 13, 11 to 18. His number is 666. 2SR 151 and 152. Although we have a separate subject concerning that mystical number, 666. The only reason that we touch this subject because it is closely connected to the subject, the antitypical Passover, by which in that subject, in 2TG 41, pages 3 and 4, is attached the presidential election of the United States of America. And the most controversial statement is that statement saying, which stands only 2 days in the future. What is that thing that stand only 2 days in the future? To repeat again, at a first glance, not only me, but even at the time that we discovered that the presidential election of the United States of America took place on November 2, 1948, there was a high official of the Davidian in the Waco Advocators on that general headquarters in Waco, Texas. And at that time, he is the chairman or the vice president, the highest official among the media in their set-up organization, more particularly to the Waco Advocators. But when someone asks him the presidential election of the United States of America in 1948, concerning the statement, stand only 2 days in the future, without any hesitation, he immediately declared that that is the presidential election in the United States of America in 1948, took place in November 8. But when we showed to him that it was not November 8, it was November 2, he was shocked. And also at that time, I've learned that not all Americans are familiar with their own history. And for sure, if we will just read that statement, immediately you can conclude that it points out to the presidential election of the United States of America. If that is the case, therefore, it must be November 8, 1948, as the thought of the statement. But it was not. The presidential election took place on November 2, 1948, and not November 8. But to repeat again, we of ourselves, we can testify that our own experience, we fully believe that it is God who lead us. And it was on November 5, that Sabbath, when we began to study, the same with all others. The first thought that came to our minds is that the presidential election is November 8. But when we trace back on November 6, 2016, we found out that it is not November 8, but November 2. But it seems very significant because at the time that we discovered in November 6, 2016, that is the time by which 2 days from that date is the presidential election of the United States of America. And to repeat again, maybe tomorrow, we will trace up all the presidential election in the United States of America from the very beginning until this present time. Now, let us show to you these two phenomena, brothers and sisters. 1948, the presidential election of the United States of America, that is leap year. And in Gregorian calendar, that is pattern number 12. And 2016 is pattern number 13. It seems that it is consecutive number. Both of them are leap year. Now, brothers and sisters, January 26, 1948, the supermoon appeared on Monday. In 2016, November 14, supermoon appeared on Monday. I don't believe that it is just a mere happenstance. I fully believe that it is purposive design, brothers and sisters. Is there any other, the two phenomena? This is the only one. Now, let's go back to our main subject. But at this time, when we are approaching now this presidential election of the United States of America, I think this is the last and the final unfoldment of this statement recorded in 2TG 41 pages 3 and page 4. That although providentially In 2016, it seems it is really literal 2 days from November 6, 2016. Then the presidential election of the United States of America took place on November 8. Now, first of all, I would like to read tract number 12. I would like to read tract number 12, page 53. Current events that may fulfill prophecy. So, current events that may fulfill prophecy. I would like to read tract number 12, page 59. Tract number 12, page 59. What is the focal point of the subject in Daniel 11? Palestine. And the term used by inspiration in Daniel 11 is the glorious land, Palestine. And that is the reason the statement in 2 TG 41:3, it says, the Palestine situation. Now, what is the Palestine situation today? While we are approaching the presidential election of the United States of America, what is the current events concerning the Palestine situation? Everybody knew, brothers and sisters, what Donald Trump did between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Would you think that is just a mere happenstance, or is it the fulfillment of the prophecy? Now, I would like to read tract number 12, page 59. It says, it is well to remember that aside from stating the geographic location of the 4 Grecian divisions, the prophetic record of the entire chain of events is devoted to the king of the south and to the king of the north. Who is the king of the south? They were the Muslims or the Mohammedans. Now, let me read to you first this reading. Tract number 12, page 75. The conflicts between the south and the north following the Greco-Roman wars were between the Mohammedans and the Christians. At that time, therefore, while the title King of the North applies to the rulers of Christianized Rome, the title King of the South applies to the Mohammedan rulers. Inasmuch as the Saracens, Moors, Arabs, and Turks, the Muslims, are the successors of Muhammad's empire in different regimes, we herein, for the sake of brevity, use the name Mohammedans for all as if they were one regime. Mohammedans, they are the king of the south. Now here in tract number 12, page 59, it says that the entire chain of prophetic events recorded in Daniel 11 is devoted to the king of the south and to the king of the north. The acts of the king of the north, however, are especially emphasized, showing the whole prophetic account is given particularly to expose his meddling with holy things. We know the word meddling meaning interfering, and of course holy things must be pertaining to religious aspect. Well, I think no one can deny the absolute fact that of all the presidents in the United States of America, there was no president that inclined intermeddling on religious aspects more than Donald Trump. But let us go back to our main subject concerning the antitypical Passover. To repeat again, B.T. Hotep was among the prophets by which God raised up to predict the event. There are only 2 divisions of the prophets. The prophets that had been raised by God to predict the event, and the prophet that God will raise up to inform, to proclaim, and to warn the people that that predicted event will now be materialized. And that is pointing to the absolute answer to the question, how close the separation? I think the statement, how close, meaning very near. The fulfillment is at our doorsteps. Now let us go back again to the statement 2TG 41, page 3. I wish that I could tell you all you want to know, but I cannot say how soon the separation, the purification of the church will take place. God alone knows the time. There are 2 things by which that are the principal reasons why God did not reveal it to B.T. Hotep. First, if God would reveal it to B.T. Hotep, by which the very people that will experience such event were not yet even born in his days, then he will be delivering the message to a wrong people, not the particular object in view. By which the people that he will deliver the message, they themselves will not experience the event. Then it would be valueless. For what for? Such information. And secondly, if God would reveal to them, how many years from 1930 to 2020? Already 90 years. would you think it would give them courage, zeal, when God will tell them it will be fulfilled 90 years, more than 90 years from these days? So such revelation is out of value and irrelevant. So God revealed the truth right on time. And the same principle recorded in 1SR Packet Edition, page 9, saying, any thinker knows that to have made known the truth of it before time. So the statement before time, meaning if God would reveal the truth to the people by which they will be lying unconscious in their graves before that predicted time will come. It says, such revelation would have left it as vain, valueless, and ineffective, as would making known the truth about the image of the beast years before or a minute after it does its deceptive work. But at the striking of the foreordained hour, the time inspiration unlocks the mystery, all can behold the truth and profit by it. Happily, we can then intelligently strive to be among this guileless company, and can be sealed with them if we sincerely and steadfastly follow on to know the truth on time. 1SR Packet Edition, pages 9 and page 10. Now, let us try to focus our whole attention to this very important event. And we will try to prove to you that the second meaning of that statement, 2 days in the future, is pointing to that antitypical Passover when all the firstborn sons will be destroyed, by which such 2 days is prophetic. 2 years from this year, the presidential election of the United States of America. 2 days from this presidential election, the slaying of all the firstborn sons will take place. Now, let us go back again to the statement in 2TG 41, page 3. I wish that I could tell you all you want to know, but I cannot say how soon the separation, the purification of the church will take place. God alone knows the time. So, Bitihotep is not a prophet that had been raised by God when the predicted event will take place. And that is the reason that he did not know. All I know is that it cannot take place before we prepare the way, before our God-given work in connection with Ezekiel 9 is done. Then it will come to pass that the Lord will suddenly come to His temple, the church, and purify the sons of Levi, the ministry. Malachi 3, verse 1-3. But those who receive not the mark will fall under the slaughter weapons of the angels, as did the unfaithful firstborn in the night of the Passover in the land of Egypt. Those who did not receive the mark. Now, I would like to read first. 3 Symbolic Code, number 8-10, page 9. What like and how far? Question number 178. What will the slaughter in the churches be like? Will it involve the outside world? Answer. The slaughter of Ezekiel 9 is the antitype of the Passover in Egypt. And therefore, it will be like it. Read Exodus chapter 12. It will be like it. Then we are commanded, read Exodus chapter 12. What does it mean by it will be like it? Meaning the same. Now, for example, this statement on the Great Controversy 399 saying, these types were fulfilled not only as to the event but as to the time. Let me see if I could find some statement written by Alonzo Jones. So, Sister White, very plain, that the types were not fulfilled not only to the event but as well as to the time. And in Answerer number 3, the Shepherd's Rod used this statement, exactly fits. Answerer number 3, page 23. In all the annals of church history since the Exodus movement, the Rod message is the only one which calls for just such a movement and which exactly fits the type. Exactly fits. In 1SR Packet Edition, on page 73, it says, all these modern occurrences being perfectly matched with the ancient ones, both in time and objective. Perfectly matched, both in time and in objective. Now, I would like to read to you this reading. It says, for God is an exact timekeeper. I think that statement is also the same with the statement given by B.T. Halter, saying, for God keeps accurate time. So that is the statement used by the Shepherd's Rod. In 1SR 153, it says, for God keeps accurate time. 1SR 153. For God keeps accurate time. But here the statement says, I would like to read the statement. Not the least point will fail. Not the least point will fail. Either in the substance shadowed forth, not the least point will fail. Either in the substance shadowed forth, or in the time, so definitely pointed out for the observance of the types, for God is an exact timekeeper. Then the quotation is, see Acts 17, 26, 31, Job 24, verse 1, Leviticus 23, verse 4 and 37. Then it says, these passages shows that time is an important point in the law of the Lord. And that is the reason why God, the all-knowing God, according to Answerer number 3, pages 9 and 10, thus the all-knowing one, he who created the heavenly bodies and knows the very moment he set them in motion to govern the day, the month, and the year, decreed that the holy feast be observed in the very month and on the very day on which they were first ordained. So our Almighty God is very particular in time because God is an exact timekeeper. Why? Because the types gives an unmistakable evidence to the particular object in view, which is the antitype. Here in 1 SR, page 226, the types themselves are not the true object, no more than a photograph is, but it is a representation which pictures an unmistakable evidence, the object in view. 1 SR 226. So let us read again the statement. It says, for God is an exact timekeeper. Then it says, these passages show that time is an important point in the law of the Lord. Therefore, type and antitype must correspond exactly as it regards time. And then the statement, not one point of the law failed here. Not one point of the law failed here. Time was most strictly regarded. And then the statement says, I would like to read, to those not willingly blind must see. Not willingly blind must see, and feel through that those which remain unfulfilled will be fulfilled with an equally strict regard to time. Equally strict regard to time. So, concerning type and antitype, brothers and sisters, the time is most strictly regarded. And there's another statement that I would like to read. Thus exactly fulfilling the type, not only in the things signified, but in the time. So I would like to read again. Thus exactly fulfilling the type, not only in the things signified, but in the time. So those passages are sufficient enough to concretely establish the impregnable truth that the true object in view was projected by God with unmistakable evidence by which it shadowed forth not only to the event but most strictly in regard to time. Now let us go back again to the statement given by the shepherd's rod. It will be like it. With those passages that we already read, that statement, it will be like it, must be referring both to the event as well as to the time. Both to the event, not only to the event, but as well as to the time, by which in reality, the time is the most strictly regarded. Now, I would like to read this reading in tract number 3 in the third edition. Third edition, page 89, it says, as number is the natural mode of time equations. As number is the natural mode of time equations, the scriptures often therefore employ it to reveal the length of time from one biblical event to another. Thus, time from the waving of the sheaf of the first fruits to the Pentecost is equated by multiplying the number of days, 7, allotted to the first of the harvest ceremonies of the feast unleavened bread by the number of weeks. 7, and it says, to the Pentecost, which is 7 times 7, or 49 days. Similarly, the duration from one jubilee to another is found by multiplying the number of years, making a sabbatical year 7. So that is called sabbatical year. Every 7th year. That is called sabbatical year. By 7 sabbatical years, giving 7 times 7 or 49 years. Very obviously, then, the scriptures commonly employed the process of multiplication in the revealing of the truth. Doubtless to some, these numerical equations will seem strange as the thought of the earth revolving on its axis was to the world of the dark ages. It is the incredibilities of today, however, that are the taken for granted realities of tomorrow. So though at the present time, little do we know of the many Bible numerics and their veiled code of truth, not so it's always to be. For God has placed them along the Bible's highways and byways of truth, as signposts calculated to point and to illuminate the royal road to the kingdom. So may every traveler thereon rejoice in deep gratitude for every ray of truth lighting his way. May the Lord forbid that any take the least chance in the darkness, and may each from unfeigned lips cry unto heaven, O send out thy light and thy truth. Let them lead me, let them bring me unto thy holy hill, unto thy tabernacle, Psalms 43 verse 3, that I may be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 14, yea, even to the knowledge of the number of the Savior. So, we have weekly Sabbath, the 7th day each week. We have the monthly Sabbath, count 7 Sabbaths, and then the 50th day, it is called the Feast of Weeks. And then we have the sabbatical year, every 7th year. And we have the Jubilee, counting 7 sabbatical years, the 50th, which is called the Jubilee. Now, I would like to read to you, brethren, the Desire of Ages. The only portion in the writings of B.T.Hotep that B.T.Hotep had not been able to explain the seeming contradiction concerning the shepherd's rod and the Desire of Ages. That is his own testimony. Now let us read again. That testimony of the prophet. Let us read the old Symbolic Code. 3 Symbolic Code, 8 to 10, page 11. 3 Symbolic Code, 8 to 10, page 11. Now, the only disagreement between the shepherd's rod and the Desire of Ages on this subject is that the Desire of Ages says that on the 2nd day of the feast, the first fruits of the year's harvest, a sheaf of barley, was presented before the Lord. The Desire of Ages, page 77, which places the first feast of the Passover on the Sabbath. Numbers 28, verse 17. Thus making the slaying of the lamb and the 14th day, Exodus 12, verse 6, fall on Friday. Whereas the shepherd's rod places the slaying of the lamb and the 14th day on Wednesday, the first feast on Thursday, the second feast on Friday, and so on. Therefore, in view of the fact that the shepherd's rod and the Desire of Ages are here at variance, and that we believe both to be inspired, we must necessarily go to the Bible to prove which is the correct day and how to harmonize the 2 volumes. Thus, laying aside both the shepherd's rod and the Desire of Ages, we go for witnesses to Mark and John. First of all, in this paragraph, in reality, B.T.Hotep is trying to emphasize that Sister White and B.T.Hotep are inspired by the same spirit of inspiration. That is the statement, saying both are inspired. And since it was inspired by the same spirit of inspiration, there is no possibility that the writings of Sister White and B.T.Hotep will be in contradiction. It must be in perfect harmony. But the only thing is that concerning the issue involved in the days of B.T.Hotep, he had not been able to completely explain why is it that the shepherd's rod declared that on the 2nd day of the feast, that is the time by which the wave sheep will be presented before the Lord. And the shepherd's rod is very certain that on 31 AD, the year of Jubilee, the year by which Jesus Christ was resurrected, that year, the wave sheep is presented before the Lord on the 4th day of the feast, which is April 18. April 18 is always the 4th day of the feast, but not April 18 always fall on Sunday. Among the 7 patterns of the Bible calendar, there is only one pattern by which the wave sheep will be presented before the Lord on the 4th day of the feast, and that was April 18. That was pattern number 6, by which it places April 15 on Thursday. the first feast, the second feast Friday, the third feast Saturday. Therefore, April 18 is the fourth day of the feast by which Jesus Christ was resurrected. But, brothers and sisters, I would like to read this reading in the Great Controversy, saying, we do not tamper the Word of God. It's here in 610 in the Great Controversy. We dare not tamper with God's Word, dividing His holy law, calling one portion essential and another non-essential to gain the favor of the world. The Lord whom we serve is able to deliver us. Christ has conquered the powers of earth, and shall we be afraid of a world already conquered? No, never. But I would like to emphasize that statement. We do not tamper the Word of God, or we will not improvise. Or in other words, both statements in the Shepherd's Rod and Desire of Ages plays a vital role in the plan of redemption. And the only answer that we can give, why is it that B.T. Hotep had not been able to clear the issues involved in his lifetime? 1 SR page 13. 1 SR page 13. The only answer, the answer we give is because it was not present truth in their time. Because it was not present truth in their time. And last night, when I was lying in bed and then at that instant when I fall asleep, it seems that there was a message that I heard, that the reason why God revealed it on this very year, 2020, because that is the most important part of the prophecy. The only year that predicted by God to reveal all the prophecies concerning the 40 days is only in 2020, not 2021, not 2019. The only year that can answer is 2020. And since there's a voice told me, because 2020 is 40. 20 plus 20 equals 40. If God would reveal it in 2021, it will spoil the picture. The predicted year, 2 days from that presidential election in the United States of America, 2020, number 40, 2 days, will be in the kingdom era. Brothers and sisters, that predicted 2 years. There is no other year. Well, the message is absolutely precisely correct. If you want 40, number 40, it must be only 2020. There are 220. 20 and 20 equals 40. Now, I would like to read 1 Symbolic Code number 6, page 7. 1 Symbolic Code number 6, page 7. It says, in reference to the question as to how can we harmonize the statement on the second day of the feast, the first fruits of the year's harvest were presented before God. Patriarchs and Prophets 539. Now the quotation here is Patriarchs and Prophets 539. But the quotation in 3 Symbolic Code 8 to 10, page 11, that was Desire of Ages, page 77. So we will be focusing to these two passages. Desire of Ages, page 77, Patriarchs and Prophets, 539. Now let us read the statement here in 1 Symbolic Code, number 6, page 7. It says, in reference to the question as to how can we harmonize the statement on the second day of the feast, the first fruits of the year's harvest were presented before God in Patriarchs and Prophets, page 539, with the statement, the sheep offering was to be offered before the Lord on the morrow after the Sabbath. The Shepherd's Rod, volume 2, page 20. We answer as follows. The fact that the author says on the day the Passover was eaten, he was to be sacrificed, proves that she does not mean the second day from the feast which Jesus celebrated, but rather from the Paschal feast on Friday. The Paschal feast on Friday night, which actually falls on the Sabbath. For the Passover on Friday, before he was crucified, the second day of the feast would not fall on Sunday, but rather on the Sabbath. And as her position is that Christ arose on Sunday, on the day the sheep was offered, Desire of Ages 785, it is evident that the statement in Patriarchs and Prophets must be understood to refer to another than the second day from the first feast, the real Passover. So the statement, the real Passover, that is April 15. I would like to read 2SR on page, let's read, 2SR page 23. It says, the 14th day of the first month that year, meaning in 31 AD, 2SR page 23, The 14th day of the first month that year was on Wednesday, and the day ended at sunset. Even the first day of the Passover feast, 15th day of the month, came on Thursday. So that is the first day of the Passover feast, April 15. The first day of the Passover feast will always fall on the 15th day of April. But the 15th day of April does not fall always on Thursday, only on pattern number 6. The first day of the Passover feast, the 15th day of the month, came on Thursday. The second on Friday, the third on Saturday, Sabbath, the fourth on Sunday, the fifth on Monday, the sixth on Tuesday, the seventh and the last of the feast on Wednesday, the 21st day of the month. So that is very plain. But only in that year, brothers and sisters. Now let us continue reading. It says, one symbolic code, number 6, page 7. In other words, if she means that which seems to appear on the face of it, the second day of the feast, according to what she has written elsewhere, would fall on the seventh day Sabbath instead of on the day the resurrection took place. Page 6 of this issue is answering a question in regard to the length of time from the day Jesus ate the Passover to the crucifixion. Proves that he ate the Passover feast with the 12 on Wednesday night and that he was resurrected on Sunday morning. That is on the day the sheep was to be presented before the Lord. This proves that the words on the second day of the feast, the first fruits of the year's harvest, were presented before God. Patriarchs and Prophets 539 could not mean the day after Jesus ate the Passover. However, thus far we are not able to give a better explanation on Patriarchs and Prophets 539. Nevertheless, the facts herein prove the shepherd's rod correct. So the prophet says, we are not able to give a better explanation on Patriarchs and Prophets 539, meaning they had not been able to completely resolve the issue. Why? Because it was not present truth in their times or in their days. And since that very truth is now being revealed unto us this very year, 2020, a remarkable year, brothers and sisters, the only year that can stand number 40, by which there is no other year except 2020, we are now in that prophetic predicted event. Now let us read the Desire of Ages, page 77. So let's read the statement. The observance of the Passover began with the birth of the Hebrew nation. So let's read again the statement. The observance of the Passover began with the birth of the Hebrew nation. So, the birth of the Hebrew nation. And it says, on the last night of their bondage in Egypt, when there appeared no token of deliverance, you see, brothers and sisters, there was no token of deliverance. Their last night of their bondage in Egypt. It says, on the last night of their bondage in Egypt, when there appeared no token of deliverance, God commanded them to prepare for an immediate release. He had warned Pharaoh of the final judgment on the Egyptians, and he directed the Hebrews to gather their families within their own dwellings. Having sprinkled the doorposts with the blood of the slain lamb, they were to eat the lamb roasted with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. And thus shall ye eat it, he said, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. Exodus 12, verse 11. At midnight, all the firstborn of the Egyptians were slain. Then the king sent to Israel the message, rise up, and get you forth from among my people, and go serve the Lord, as ye have said. Exodus 12, verse 31. The Hebrews went out from Egypt an independent nation. It says, the Hebrews went out from Egypt an independent nation. The Lord commanded that the Passover should be yearly kept. It shall come to pass, he said, when your children shall say unto you, what mean ye by this service, that ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians. Thus from generation to generation, the story of this wonderful deliverance was to be repeated. Then it says, the Passover was followed by the 7 days feast of unleavened bread. On the second day of the feast, the first fruits of the year's harvest, a sheaf of barley, was presented before the Lord. All the ceremonies of the feast were types of the work of Christ The deliverance of Israel from Egypt was an object lesson of redemption, which the Passover was intended to keep in memory. The slain lamb, the unleavened bread, the sheep of first fruits presented the Savior. Now, we need to trace the historical event. I would like to read first 1SR. Here in 1SR page 114 and 115, it says, the prophecy made to Abraham of 430 years ended at the time the children of Israel went out of Egypt, which is, according to Bible chronology, King James Version, 1491 BC. So that was 1491 BC. And brothers and sisters, since the Shepherd's Rod says that that date, 1491 BC, was taken in King James Version, and the Shepherd's Rod itself says in 2SR 118, 2SR page 118, it says, the King James Version is as dependable as any good translation. In the Old Symbolic Code, it says, Old Symbolic Code. Moreover, 3 Symbolic Code, number 7, page 4. Moreover, the King James Version is the one to be depended upon. For the other translations of the Scriptures were in some instances interpreted in the light of sectarian views, and thus, instead of being exact renderings of the Scriptures, they contain thoughts in favor of the translator's personal belief. In reality, that version called King James Version, that is the version by which the one who translated the Bible from Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek Latin to English language is John Wycliffe. And it is called Authorized Version. The reason that it is called King James Version because it is King James of England who protected that translation made by John Wycliffe, brothers and sisters, to be printed and distributed. So that is the only Bible English version by which the one who translated it from Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek Latin to English language, which is under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, is the King James Version, translated by John Wycliffe, by which the great controversy called him as the morning star of Reformation. The morning star of Reformation. And because of that translation, it prepares the way of Martin Luther, the beginning of the Reformation in 1500 AD. Now, brethren, when we trace back the historical event, 1491 BC, it is pattern number 4. That year is pattern number 4. Now, we will show to you pattern number 4, April. Pattern number 4, April. So only this, April. So this is pattern number 4, by which April 1 fall on Friday. Now, brothers and sisters, in pattern number 4, no, it is not on the second day of the feast by which the wave ship is presented before the Lord, but rather on the third day of the feast. It was on the third day of the feast, not on the second day of the feast. The only pattern by which it is on the second day of the feast, brothers and sisters, is pattern number 2. Now look at pattern number 2. So this is pattern number 2. The first day of the feast fall on April 15, Saturday, and then the second day of the feast fall on April 16, by which the sheep is offered and presented before the Lord. And we need to trace back the historical event that in the first section of the Exodus, only 3 times under the leadership of Moses that they observed the Passover. That is while in Egypt and 2 years in the wilderness. So pattern number 4, pattern number 5, pattern number 6. And on the second year in the wilderness, according to the historical event, they were no longer allowed to observe the Passover. Now let me read to you here in Patriarchs and Prophets 406. For nearly 40 years, the children of Israel are lost to view in the obscurity of the desert. The space, says Moses, in which we came from Kadesh Barnea until we were come over the brook Serd was 30 and 8 years. 40 minus 38, that is 2 years. So that 2 years which they spent in the wilderness, until all the generation of the men of war were wasted out from among the hosts, as the Lord sware unto them. For indeed the hand of the Lord was against them to destroy them from among the hosts until they were consumed. Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 14 and 15. During these years, the people were constantly reminded that they were under the divine rebuke. In the rebellion of Kadesh, they had rejected God, and God for the time rejected them since they had proved unfaithful to His covenant. They were not to receive the sign of the covenant, the rite of circumcision. Their desire to return to the land of slavery had shown them to be unworthy of freedom, and the ordinance of the Passover instituted to commemorate the deliverance from bondage was not to be observed. And in Bible commentary it says they had been prohibited. Now let me read to you this passage in 485 in Patriarchs and Prophets. It says, a short distance from Jordan, the Hebrew made their first encampment in Canaan. Here Joshua circumcised the children of Israel, and the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal and keep the Passover. In page 613, Patriarchs and Prophets. Gilgal had been the place of Israel's first encampment in the Promised Land. It was here that Joshua, by divine direction, set up the pillar of 12 stones to commemorate the miraculous passage of the Jordan. Here circumcision had been renewed. Here they had kept the first Passover after the sin at Kadesh and the desert sojourn. Here Manasseh, here the captain of the Lord's host, revealed himself as chief in command of the armies of Israel. And 1491 BC minus 40, we have 1451 BC. Now let us look at our Bible pattern by year. 1451 BC, by years. 1451. Can you enlarge? So 1451 BC, that is pattern number 2. So the statement in Desire of Ages, Patriarchs and Prophets, is precisely, absolutely perfect and correct. That it is pointing to the second section of Exodus, immediately after Moses died. When the movement is under the leadership of Joshua, the very first Passover by which they commemorated, it is on the second day of the feast by which the sheep offering were presented before the Lord. We will continue this subject, brethren, and hoping that the good Lord would bless us and would help us, and you will continue and abide listening and viewing this program, because the time is no longer far distant. Our deliverance, brothers and sisters, when God will brought us into the place by which that is His divine will, that His people will live a holy, happy, and healthy people. That is the statement, right? In 1 SM, page 68 and 69. The great controversy, 458 and 459. That is the will of God. That God to lead His people unto the heavenly Canaan, to live there a holy, healthy, and happy people. There will be no more sickness. There will be no more sorrow. No more sadness. All are happiness. Right? I think, let me see if I could remember that statement saying that there will be no more long faces. 1 TG number 16, page 24 and 25. Jerusalem shall be a city of joy too. There shall be no fear or accident. Even the children shall safely play in the streets. There shall be no long faces and no worried looks. So shall it be for both young and old. So no more long faces and no worried looks. All the people that live there is a holy, healthy, and happy people. Soon, all of us will be there if we will be faithful. Although we could not see each other physically at this time, but that time, that predicted event, that God will gather us into one place and there live happily, holy, healthy, happy people, is no longer far distant. 2 days from this year, 2 years from this year. May the good Lord bless you and have a beautiful, wonderful evening.